Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert, and if you want to learn about business, you've come to the right place. This is a weekly, more or less weekly live stream where we talk about business principles, usually with the aim of helping the more entrepreneurial-minded people out there. If you have any desire to start up a side hustle or go the full 9 yards and start your own business, this is for you. The topic of today's episode is called What Corporate Sales Managers Do, and So Should You. This is a little bit of a different topic that I usually handle on this stream. This is a little bit more high-level stuff, but I feel that it's useful to know for people who want to start their own business, because marketing and sales is going to be a primary concern to you, so I figured we would talk about it today. I see there are 13 people here so far. Thank you for joining me today. You guys are awesome, I just want to say. So this is great. Now, this is also, if this is your first time here, this is also a Q&A. It's like an interactive type thing. So if you're seeing me, you should see a chat box somewhere nearby. Get in the chat box. Ask me questions, give me your reactions, let me know what you're wondering about, what I can help you with, and I will do my best to help you out. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members, my Patreons, my super thanks donors, and of course, to my participants. You guys, as I said, are awesome. Okay, I'm going to try something a little bit different today. Usually I just blather on, and all you can see is my face. Sometimes I alternate my camera angle and things like this, but today, I tried to take my rough notes that I make for these things and put them into some slides. Not very many slides, like 3, because I didn't want to go nuts with this, but I wanted to see if I could make it work going off those and have you guys see something other than my face the whole time. So let's see if we can get that working. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, so I figured I would try this, and I think I can still alternate between that and other things. So, okay, this is a little bit more variety. Okay, so as I said, let's just dive into this. The topic is what corporate sales managers do, and so can you. Very, very quick overview of some basic business concepts, and that is that, obviously our priority is to maximize sales. All sales are driven by promotion. And when I say sales, that could be referring to quantities, that could be referring to revenue, that could be referring to profit. All of the above, depending on your situation. Usually what you want to do is have sales where people are satisfied. That's the number one thing. There's no point in making sales if people then return your product or complain, right? But you want satisfied customers when you make a sale. But that being understood, the goal is to maximize your sales, right? And you do this with promotion. Okay, how do sales happen? They don't just happen for no reason. They happen because you have put something out there. You have done some kind of promotion. You have done ads. You have done personal selling. You have done some kind of way, some kind of mechanism to get exposures so people see your stuff, or they interact with your stuff, or they touch it and feel it, or they can use it for free or sample it for free. Some way of getting your thing out there into the awareness of your potential customers. And for those who aren't familiar with sales terms, we're going to use the term prospect. A prospect is a potential customer, essentially, for our purposes here. Okay? So, another thing here besides that is that, you have the sort of marketing activities and you have sales activities. And if you are wondering what those terms mean, marketing is, you could think of it like this in a very general sense. Marketing is the theory and sales is the execution. Okay, so marketing is more of the strategic side of things, the planning, maybe giving you the tools you need or the techniques you need. And then sales is the operations, the execution of the sales process where you actually go out and make the sales. Okay, but these are very loose definitions because in the real world, people just use these terms sometimes interchangeably, like a lot of things in business. Yeah, so there you go. I see Sharon is here. Hello to Sharon. Sharon says this. That's a staggering round of applause. Yeah, thank you for being here. Okay, so if you've never been a sales manager and you're wondering about this stuff, sales managers in general out in the real world in larger businesses like enterprise, okay, they work on several things, okay? Number one is kind of the obvious things you would expect. They work on the effectiveness of the promotion. So that's basically, how to do the sales and how to, like you're basically coaching a team of salespeople, right? So if you're the sales manager, you're in charge of making sure that they're doing the right activities, using the right techniques. You make sure that they're trained, this kind of thing. You're also doing like hiring, firing. So you're selecting employees, right? Making sure that they have the right skills, they have the right personality for the particular type of sales that you have in mind for them. Okay, sometimes you need extroverts for this, a lot of the time. Sometimes you need introverts if it's more of a technical sales thing. You have inside salespeople and you have outside salespeople. Inside salespeople are essentially, you could think of them as order takers. They answer the phone, customers call them, and then the inside salespeople take their call, answer questions, explain why they might want to go with one product over another, or this kind of stuff. Outside salespeople are different. They're the ones that like physically go and interact with customers. So they don't just sit in an office all day. They're out on the road. They're out interacting with people. It depends what type of business you have, but I come from a background for industrial business-to-business sales. So our outside salespeople would be road warriors. They'd be in their cars or on a plane, and they'd be going to visit industrial customer sites and meet with the managers there and see how our products were doing and, answering questions and try to get them interested in new products and what we could do for them and all this kind of stuff. So that's the difference. Outside salespeople are, it's more of like cold contacting people where you go to them. Inside salespeople are more like order takers, people that answer phones. Okay, that's kind of the general type thing. Okay. So if you're a sales manager, you'd be running a sales team, right? And you would be doing the obvious stuff there, making sure your people are trained. Now, the other thing you'd be doing, like I have here, do I have a cursor that works? Yes, I do. Perfect. Okay, you can see that. It's not the most obvious thing to see, but there's technically a little cursor there. Number two, so determining how to maximize results. Now this can be a very sort of basic, touchy-feely type thing where people just do sales in the way they feel that it should be done. Or it can be a much more scientific, much more technical and methodical, I was going to say methodological, methodical way of doing this. And this is what I wanted to talk about today. Okay, so sales managers who just close deals, that's kind of what they do, and they coach their team, should have their roles expanded to being business managers. This has been something that's been talked about for about 50 years, at least. And that shift is slowly been happening. Okay, it depends on the organization. Now, business managers are people who analyze sales data and then take action. Okay, so these are people that look at data. Okay, so you're not just a sort of salesperson, with the gift of gab and the $1 million smile and the fancy Italian suit. Instead, you're some pencil-pushing dweeb that sits in an office that looks over Excel sheets and things like this traditionally, right? Those worlds wouldn't really intersect usually in the past, but this is the challenge of getting sales managers to sort of have more of these data analysis skills. And that's been happening. And this is what a lot of sales managers do now, okay? So obviously you're looking at data, and the goal is to act on strategic business opportunities. Okay, in order to do that, like I've said here, the conventional wisdom is you need the right information, the right people, and the right tools. And tools doesn't just mean apps or computers. It means the correct techniques, processes to be able to look at what's going on out there and decide what's to be done. Okay? Now, if you've never done this before, maybe this can help you. This is what these people do. Okay? The most basic kind of thing would be to use pivot tables. Hopefully everybody knows what pivot tables are. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. Go and Google or ChatGPT pivot tables. And it's like a sort of super duper fancy Excel sheet, like a spreadsheet, where you see in the past, Excel was kind of the standard. I think these days people are using other things too, as well as Excel. You're losing the Google stuff and the Adobe stuff. And, anyway, so a pivot table is like this, almost like a multi-dimensional spreadsheet, kind of like a relational database, but simpler. And what it is that let's say you have sales data that's raw, right? Every transaction gets put into some kind of spreadsheet, like a ledger, where every transaction is a row. It's a line of information. So you say the date, you say the name of the customer that bought the thing, you say how much they paid for it. Excuse me. You say what product it was. You say where the location was that this took place, what branch office, what region, what city, what country, what salesperson maybe owned that transaction, that made that sale, and so on. So it's a line of data that has all this information in fields, right? So even if you're like a startup type organization or you're, a side hustle, you're going to be recording your sales, right? In some way, shape, or form. It might be with an app or with a kind of like an ERP system, like a fancy computer system, or just you do it manually with like a spreadsheet or something. So you're going to have this in some way, shape, or form. And the idea is that you would use a pivot table to quickly get some information from that data that you've entered in the spreadsheet. Okay? So with a pivot table, what you can do is, like it says here, you can look at it by each of those fields. So you can look at it for all the products. You can sort of get it to automatically create graphs and things that show you, okay, by product, here's your volume or your revenue. You could look at it by customer. You could look at it by the salesperson. You could look at it, obviously, by the branch office and the city and the country and all that kind of stuff, by region, okay? Or by channel. You could say, like, this was an internet sale. This came from our website, or it came from social media, or it came from, face-to-face transaction where somebody physically walked up to our physical location and went to the customer counter or whatever and bought something, right? So you can look at your sales activity like this, and you can see, like, okay, all the graphs, like what value by category and all this kind of stuff. And you can use that as a quick and dirty way to glean some intelligence from this. You can see where the activity is and where it isn't, the hot spots and the cold spots. If 80% of your sales are coming out of one location, that would be useful to know, right? If all your products all sold equally, that would be useful to know. Or if there was one really dominant product and the others were negligible, that would be useful to know, right? So pivot tables are a great tool to do this. And what the sales manager would do would be to look at this data and focus on the hot spots and the cold spots. The hot spots, where a lot of your activity is coming from, you'd think, okay, it seems to be like these could be easy pickings. These could be the low-hanging fruit. We seem to be doing very well when it comes to this, maybe a particular salesperson or a particular location. And then you look at the cold spots and say, okay, well, this seems to be tough going when we look at this particular region or this particular product or this particular salesperson, whatever. And then you think, like, okay, what's the reason for that? The sales manager would then work with the team. Why is this a cold spot? Are we just not doing a very good job? Or is it just not worth our while to focus our efforts in that particular area? We seem to be banging our head against the wall, doing all this promotional activity to make sales with this particular type of customer, but we're obviously not getting anywhere. So should we abandon our efforts or should we change what we do, right? These would be questions you would ask based on the data. Okay, so this is something that anybody can do. You don't have to have a fancy computer system. You don't have to have fancy software or a team of people or specialized knowledge. Anybody can do this. If you can use an Excel spreadsheet or any other type of spreadsheet, you can use a pivot table with like 2 days training that you can get off the internet by just Googling things and watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. Okay, and this can really help. So if you've never done this before, if you weren't aware of this, I highly recommend that you check it out, okay? Go and learn about pivot tables and what they can do for you. I do want to go further today, though, and show you guys an example of another technique that's going a little bit more complex, but still, you know, pretty straightforward, okay? Now, I have to apologize because the notes that and the slides, the slides that I've made, okay, which are just like glorified text files here, they're not very sophisticated. I just threw them together with like basically handwritten stuff. So well, let's get through this. You'll have to be a little bit forgiving of my of what I've written here. Okay, so technique number 2, ratio of markets. Okay, basically what you're doing here is you're doing something similar to what I just described. You're basically looking at the effectiveness of your promotion. Okay, and you're using it to get intelligence about how to focus your efforts and what to focus on that will make you more efficient, okay? So you can maximize your results for the amount of effort, promotional activities, and therefore money that you're putting into this, okay? Okay, now I want to introduce you to something that I think is very useful. I've used quite a lot in my career, okay? And this is the idea of an index, okay? And I use it in this sense as referring to the ratio of a percentage over a percentage, okay? Let me explain. I'm sure that's clear as mud, but I'm going to explain further here. Okay, so here's kind of an example, okay? Think of it this way. For each market, that means each sort of segment of your customer base, group of customers, because you won't have a uniform set of customers. You'll be able to break it out by categories, right? As I said, something like internet sales versus physical sales, for example, right? You'll have different categories of customers. People that live over here versus people that live over there, right? Okay, so I'm referring to the different types of customers as a market, and that's short for market segment. So for each market, which could be like, you know, different cities, different countries, different regions, right? Different segments accessible by a certain channel, like for example, your customers that you deal with through Facebook or your customers that you deal with through LinkedIn, etc. Okay, so for each market, you calculate a couple of these indexes or indices, depending on how you say it. Okay, let's look at the first one here, a performance index. Okay, so this would be a percentage over a percentage. In this case, it would be the percentage of sales revenue over percentage of prospects. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're looking at it by city. What's your favorite city that we can use as the example? How about Boise, Idaho? Okay, I just like that name. There's a lot of cities in the United States that, to my ears, have very weird sounding names. You know, Ronkonkoma and, you know, all this stuff. They don't have normal names like Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, all right? Anyway, but okay, so let's look at it by city. So say Boise, Idaho. Of all the sales that you make in Boise, Idaho, okay, the sales in Boise, Idaho make up 20% of all your sales revenue, okay? So your percentage of sales would be 20% because 20% of your sales come from the Boise, Idaho location. Okay, Now, how many, if you look at like your entire sort of targeted market, okay, of all the customers that you're trying to target and you're trying to promote your products to, how many of those are in Boise, Idaho? Okay, maybe only 10% of all your customers that you're actually trying to reach are in Boise, Idaho. So it would be 10% of prospects. So 10% of your customers are in Boise, Idaho, but they make 20% of your sales revenue. So 20% over 10% is 2. So your performance index for Boise, Idaho would be 2. And the way this works is that 1 would be average, above 1 would be above average, and below 1 would be below average, right? That's how this works. If you look at another city, say Miami, and you have 15% of your customers in Miami that you're targeting, that you're promoting stuff to, 15% of them are in Miami, and the sales from Miami are 15% of your total sales revenue, then your performance index would be 1. It would be average. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea, right? This is what an index is. It's going to be around 1. Some things are going to be above 1, some things are going to be below 1, but that's what it is. And if they are above 1, they're outperforming. If they're below 1, they're underperforming. So this shows you where hot spots and cold spots are. Okay, so performance index is like how well your activities are working in that region, if we're doing this by region or in that city. Okay, now marketing activity index would be another index you could do. Okay, now in this case, I took this as an example for a type of company that they did promotion by organizing events and having interested customers show up at the events. Okay. Or I think they did, actually, now that I think about it, I think they had a company representatives going to these events, right? So in one city, they'd have 500 employees all promoting, which would be a big effort. And in another city, they'd have 10 employees promoting, which would be a smaller effort. So marketing activity index. So you have a percentage over a percentage. The denominator is the same as what we talked about before, percentage of prospects, okay? So if we're looking at it by region or by city, it would be percentage of the prospects in that city. Okay, so that's the same. But the numerator is different. It's the percentage of attendees of events from the region. So this would be like the percentage of employees you're throwing at the problem, okay? So your marketing activity would be the numerator. Okay, so to take an example, let's look at Miami again, okay? Now, I can't remember what I said last time. I think it was 15% of all of your customers are in Miami, okay? Well, let's look at your promotional activities, okay? The promotion you're doing in Miami, what percentage is that of your total promotional activities you're doing everywhere? So if Miami if you were doing 15% of your promotion activity in Miami, targeting Miami customers, and Miami constituted 15% of your sales, it would be 15% over 15%, and your marketing activity index would be 1. So it would be average, right? You're focusing 15% of your effort there, and it's making 15% of your sales. So it's average. If you look at another city, say New York. Now, New York is big. 20% of your sales come from New York. So the denominator would be 20%. But you're focusing 50% of your marketing activities. You're concentrating half your total marketing activities on New York. So it's taking 50% of your effort, but it's only making 20% of your sales. So that would be, you do the ratio. I can't do the ratio in my head, like 2.5 or something. Okay. So it would be above average. It would be a lot more activity happening there than average. Okay. So you could look at these indexes and they tell you like the hot spots and the cold spots. The marketing activity index, that tells you like the hot spots and cold spots for where you're focusing. And the performance index, that tells you the hot spots and cold spots of what's paying off. Okay? So as you can see, we're going to get some very quick intelligence out of this. What can this do? It will determines which city to do promotion in which to do promotion, to get maximum increase in revenue for the smallest expenditure. So if you are focusing your efforts in a place where the pickings are not so easy, that can be a disconnect. What you want to do is you want to focus more of your efforts in places where, you know, your sales are a lot easier. Okay, that you want to align these, right? And if you're not really getting anywhere in a certain region, or, you know, with a certain product or through a certain channel, you want to examine those to see why it is. If you can figure out what exactly is causing this variation, this lack of performance or whatever, that's what you want to work on. So this is a very useful technique to kind of get a picture of what's going on. Where's our effort being spent? You know, what's the how easy are our results, or how efficient are our results and our sales being made? And we want to align them. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense, or you get an idea. Using indices, I think, is a very useful technique. I've been doing this for years. It's strange how I'm really not doing a great job of explaining it very fluently, but hopefully you get the idea. What do you guys think of my using slides? Let me know in the comments. This is a slightly newer thing for me. I don't know about you, but I found when people give like PowerPoint presentations, generally it's a turnoff. It's like some boring thing. And I'd much rather look at a person talk or articulate something. But that's just me. I think there's also a lot of people that they don't know how to present. So when they put up a PowerPoint slide, they themselves are extremely boring to watch and to listen to, and they rely on the slides to hold everyone's attention, and it often doesn't work, but that's just me. Okay, let me just say a few more notes here, and then we'll open this up to questions. Okay, so let me give you an example, and I took this from a business textbook. Not this exact thing, but like this idea, okay? And when I say textbook, I don't mean like a textbook you use in school. I mean like somebody's account of what they did, okay? So in this example, the person in question used 3 sources of data, like you do: the internet, a consulting firm, or internal. Now, most people are not going to have access to consulting firms. I've had very, very mixed results dealing with consulting firms in my career, especially getting data from consulting firms. In theory, I've been told that, you know, this is something that really, really helps, but in practice, it hasn't been that helpful. It's, you know, you would buy data and you'd work with people to get data, and it would turn out to really, really not be accurate. But that's not the point of this, okay? You can get data from the internet. For example, if you want to see how many companies there are in your region that are in a certain industry, all that is freely available on the internet for you. From the government, whatever government of whatever country, they publish that stuff. You know, they collect it through their income tax mechanism, and then they publish that stuff. So you can go online and you can see, you know, in my business, whatever business you're in this region, how many other companies are there, and how many employees do they have? You can find that. You won't get their names, but you'll get like how many companies, and how many companies with this many employees, how many companies with that many employees. They publish all of this stuff, right? So you can get a lot of useful information on the internet if you know where to look. Okay? You will have your own internal sources of data. Can you see my... Yeah, you can. You can see my cursor here. You will have your own internal sources of information, like, you know, how much sales you did last year and things like that. Okay? And you could also sometimes get information from outside paid sources if you want to go in that direction, but it's not necessary. Okay, so for example, for each city, you can get off the internet how many employees, you know, like how many companies there are of a certain type in a certain industry, and how many employees in each. Okay, you can get that from the internet. Now, if you want to know how many prospects there are that could buy your product in a certain area, in theory, you might be able to get that from a consulting firm, or you might just be able to get that yourself from experience and industry associations. Okay. Number of partners from the firm's own marketing managers and seminars and events. This was in the special case of a company that used partners to do a lot of their promotion for them. Okay. So basically, partners was an indication of how much promotional effort you're applying. Okay, so if you know this kind of information, this general type of stuff, you can analyze the data, you can find a correlation between the sales numbers and the marketing activities, right? We were talking about that previously. So you look at like where you're making your sales, and you're looking at, you know, what type of promotional efforts you're doing to make sales. Okay? And some things will be more efficient in some areas, some things will be less efficient in other areas, right? You have your last year's sales data, okay, which obviously you use to calculate growth. Okay, to also add to this, to analyze the data. You can look at things like having, you know, like dividing up your revenue by, say, postal code or zip code or anything like that. That can give you a general idea of, you know, where your sales are happening, you know, what areas are sort of easier pickings and what areas are sort of less responsive, right? You would be able to do that with your internal data. And you could combine all of this to identify new cities for a new marketing campaign, for example. Okay, you've looked at the data, you decided that, you know, what makes sense to us is to focus more of our promotional activities, our marketing efforts into this particular city, because people there seem to be really excited about buying our stuff, right? Okay, so this is the kind of thing that sales managers have been doing for quite a while, okay? If you're a sales manager, in addition to the basic stuff like managing a team, hiring, firing people, training people, and, you know, how to make the sales and how to follow the processes, and possibly even designing the processes yourself. In addition to that, you're doing this kind of data-driven activity to look at what's going on and constantly determine how can we become more efficient. Okay, if we're going to focus our efforts somewhere, let's focus them in areas where they're going to most efficiently turn into sales. And we're going to maximize our sales. So we need to know what location, what product, what technique, you know, and things like that. What channel to go over, etc. What salesperson, you know, is generating the sales, so that maybe if they are using a particular technique or something, we can look into that and see if we can capitalize on that by training everyone in that or something like that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to do this. I don't normally talk about sort of slightly higher level stuff like this, but I wanted to do it today. So I'd like to open it up for questions. If you guys are here, I see there's 13 people here. Get in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions or any comments or what you're wondering about. It doesn't necessarily have to be about this. It could be about anything. I see Sharon is here. So hello to Sharon. NC Worker says, good afternoon, everyone. NC Worker says, I enjoy them. I'm a visual learner. Good. So this was probably with reference to the slides. That's good. Yeah, sorry, no pictures. I just sort of put my text up on a fancy blue background, right? Jessica says, I don't mind PowerPoint. It gives an opportunity to visually follow along. Yes, well, that's good. That's good. I have kind of conflicting feelings on it. I think that some people rely on it who are just not good presenters. They could be good presenters if they put more effort into presenting. You know, if they varied their voice or they varied their location. I used to teach how to do public speaking, which is ironic because I'm not very good at it on the internet. But, you know, I've done a lot of keynotes and stuff in my time where it's all kind of scripted and, you know, it's rehearsed. And I tend to do much, much better in those situations rather than being live blathering on like this. But I used to teach students in post-secondary education how to do presenting and things. And, it's all about varying things, varying your tone, varying the volume of your voice, changing your location, speaking directly to people, maintaining eye contact, and doing that with everybody in the room. And I find that you rarely see that. Instead, you see people just sort of standing in one spot, looking down, mumbling in a kind of monotone as they change slides on the PowerPoint. And it's just the most boring thing to watch. But each to their own. If you're a really good presenter and you have amazing visual aids, yes, that can really put it over the top. But I find that people use it as a crutch more than they should. Anyway, this is, I will just, one last time, I'll sort of open it up to questions. This is an opportunity for anyone to ask questions about whatever you're wondering about, whatever you're working on. If you're trying to make sales, if you're trying to do marketing or you're trying to do sales, I'll see if I can help you with that. But this is what a lot of corporate sales managers do. That's what we were just doing an overview of. If you are interested, while we're waiting for questions to come in, if you are interested in learning business, check out that course right there. That's the biggest bang for the buck of anything you can do. That will teach you business. That will teach you basically the entire curriculum of a full brick and mortar MBA degree for $100, which is like incredible. The catch is that it's self-learning. So you get essentially a reading list of textbooks, the same textbooks they use in, some programs like Harvard Business School's MBA program. And you get a whole bunch of videos by me where I guide you through it. So you then go and read the books and learn it, on your own schedule to the degree that you're interested. Some people are just interested in skimming and just getting a basic overview, which is great. Others, they want to go in depth and they want to get the full value of like having taken a full course in this, where you would do problems and assignments and things like this. Now, this course doesn't have any evaluations. So if you don't want to do any exercises or problems, you just want to read it and go, that makes sense. Now I know. You can. And that's why I did it this way. But if you do want to do a lot of practice problems and things, if you get the books, then you will be able to. So it's very flexible, and it covers the entire curriculum. So there's multiple courses in there, multiple books on all the different topics like accounting and marketing and HR and organizational theory, operations, innovation, all that kind of stuff. Finance. It's all there. So if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description. Check it out. And that will really, really help you. You will save yourself so much time in the real world, getting a business off the ground and getting to being successful, because you won't be learning everything the hard way. You'll have learned a lot of things the easy way, where you doesn't have to cost you a bunch of money and take a bunch of time to learn the lesson. So yeah. And there you go. So I'm not getting a lot of questions, so I'll probably wrap it up very soon. But if you're just joining us, I see a couple of people just joined us. We basically learned what corporate sales managers do in a lot of roles in larger businesses, and how you can use some of these techniques to get more efficient at making sales if you're in a small business. That's the purpose of this. If you're wondering what salespeople do and what they spend their time on, and in particular sales managers, that's what we covered. So hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, this was a bit of a stretch. Normally we talk about like really low-level stuff. But this was a bit of a stretch for me. So let me know if you want me to do this kind of thing again. I will be back next week at this time with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. NC Worker says, sales is a rewarding position. Yeah, it can be. It definitely can be, especially if you're an outside salesperson. You get to go and meet new people, and you get to talk to them face to face about the products and how the products work, and or if it's a service, understand their needs and sort of make recommendations of how your company can help sort of solve the problems for them. So yeah, it can definitely be useful, and it can be rewarding because you get to interact with the people directly and see the expression on their face if they say like, wow, we're really happy with the last sort of job you guys did or the last product we bought from you. And then they show you how they used it or something like that. It's very revealing. You get to see a lot of the stuff that a lot of other employees in the company never get to see. They might build products or whatever, but then they don't know where they go. They just go out and they're sold and you never see them again. You get to see where those products end up, how they're used, what people think of them. You get to see all of that, right? And then you have a lot of insight, a lot of feedback to give the rest of the company and all these different departments, about how what they're doing really well and what they're maybe not doing so well. You have that information. It also makes you very valuable too. Some companies do a great job of listening, others don't. NC Worker says, yes, do it again. Okay, great. Thanks for the feedback. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. You guys are awesome. I will be back next week, and we'll do another one of these. Let me know if you have any topic suggestions. Leave them in the comments. In the meantime, check out that course if you want to learn business. That's like the sort of source from the horse's mouth, the de facto source for where you find information on how to be successful in business. Okay, thank you very much. You guys take care. I will see you soon.